Yes, people, welcome back to the channel. And United have won 3 games in a row in the league. 2 games away from someone being able to cut their hair. But I think the question on everyone's lips is, have United actually turned a corner? Ellipsis, ellipsis, ellipsis. For good? Is this not a false dawn? And are we actually seeing the fruits of our labour in terms of some of the promising signs we saw since the beginning of the season, not for sustained periods, but is it starting to kind of mould itself together? Because everyone knows I'm not the biggest optimist. I feel like I'm always more of a half glass empty. You don't get disappointed as much in that way. But I think we should discuss about what we feel like we've seen in terms of improvements and signs of progression. Things that still need to improve, but also kind of discussing whether it's something that can basically project to what could be a positive future for Manchester United, because we know how quickly things can turn and things can change in the Premier League. Because 3 games ago after Brentford, it looked like the world was caving in, and it seemed like the obvious eventuality was United were going to in for another poor season over in November, and Ruben Amorim was on his way out. Fast forward 3 matches, looks like United look like very strong top 4 contenders. Amorim all of a sudden looks like a genius and lauded as someone that could be, by many, as someone that could take us towards 21, if you're hyper positive. So, is the truth somewhere in the middle? Should we get excited? Should we still be more on the side of positive caution? I don't know if that's a massive oxymoron. But for me, what I definitely feel like I have seen in terms of a change and something that's been hyper positive is the environment and the continuity and the togetherness of the team in general. And in any team sport, team morale is a phrase that we've known since the dawn of time. But because the level, especially the top level, because the margins are so incredibly fine, things as innocuous as team morale and togetherness and spirit and relationships between players and the manager, they can count for those extra 1 or 2% that can mean all the difference towards the end of a season. You seen last season that teams were missing out on top 4 by 2 points. So that is one of the biggest things that I've seen, because I thought I'd touch on this, because a lot of people, whenever we're losing games, we're in poor form, we're saying still bad eggs in the team. The players are giving up on the manager. They aren't playing for him. They aren't lazy. They're not self-motivators. And I don't think I've ever seen that from this current squad. I don't think I've seen a team that has given up on a manager, has never believed in, or a mailing team, or basically mailing games in. I didn't see that. I do feel like the players are behind him. They're professional footballers that have made it to the top 0.000000001% of the game. And that's built on having a mentality, a winning mentality and a determination about themselves. Believe it or not, what you like to think, professional footballers are not okay with losing games. They're very prideful people. They wouldn't have got as far as they did if they weren't like that. But when I'm seeing the reactions after the Liverpool game, and I'm seeing the players' reactions after the Brighton game, I think there's an incredible likability about this current group that hasn't been there very often in the last 10, 15 years. And you actually do have to give Amorim credit for that, because I think managers and coaches are massively responsible for the environment that they breed at a training ground and in the team. And I think that's one of his major... I think he's a good people's... For the most part, I think he can be harsh when he needs to be, and that's obviously good. And all managers have blind spots and players that they don't rate as much as others, and players he might typically favourite, and they'll have certain players that they outcast. But in terms of him upping the work rate and the fitness levels and the conditioning of the team, he's done that. Has he created an environment where the players are likeable and they're together and the morale seems to be high? I think he has as well. And I think that even looked like the case when United were losing as well. And from what I hear, I think the players, for the most part, do like him. He's meant to be a charismatic, likeable guy, but in terms of I think a lot of the criticism towards him was to do with the tactical situation. That United were struggling to play out from the back and we were allowing too many opportunities. We weren't winning enough games. And there has been a shift these last 3 matches. I'm always very nervous about being like rash or being too reactionary, as people like to call it, because when I changed my mind on, not changed my mind, but when I was very like, Amorim isn't a guy, and I was very much Amorim out, people will remind me of that, especially after Brentford. I think Brentford was a massive turning point for me. Up until then, even when United were poor, I wasn't calling for the manager's head. I think my belief in him was just deteriorating, and I was trying to not be too, because I like to see sample size. But then after the Brentford game, I was like, nah. Like many others, after the Brentford game, I'll be happily proved wrong, because the thing is, if I'm proven wrong by Amorim, and we end up brilliant side and challenging for trophies and finishing top 5, top 4 in a league, which is very difficult to do so right now, I will happily, a million times out of a million, take being wrong if it means that my team is good, because that is what I care about first and foremost. But as I even said earlier, I think the improvements that I've seen is teams are struggling to play for our press, and they're finding it a lot harder to find solutions, because we worried about how predictable that we became under Amorim, where it felt like teams had us figured out before they went on the pitch, and it felt like we didn't have a plan B or a plan C. Sunderland, Liverpool and Brighton, that's 3 games in a row, 3 different teams, 3 decent teams, what it looks like, have all struggled much more to play out from the back and to build up the way they want to build and attack the way that they want to attack, and the solutions that they're trying to find have become a lot more difficult. And that is credit to Amorim, and that's credit to the team as well, looking a lot more coordinated. I'm not saying things are perfect, but there's been significant strides, and there's been a shift in the last 3 matches, and there's an old positive atmosphere now at the club and within the fan base as well. Things can change really fast, but I'm actually starting to like and be positive about where we're at the moment. And one thing I will give him credit for as well is he's platformed our attacking play as well. I think a lot of the discussion was United are vertical, United are direct, United are just booming the ball, United aren't building up. We always talked about Ten Hag and managers being stubborn where you're losing games and they're not making tactical adjustment. That is a tactical adjustment, whether it's one that you agree with or not. It's not something that I necessarily agreed with, because I think sometimes you leave a little bit too much to chance and variance when you're kicking the ball long in the air, where one day the ball and the second balls and loose balls might just always end up at the opposition rather than at your feet. But I think it actually has suited our attacking players. United's strongest area of the pitch is in the forwards. Bruno, Sesko, Mbeumo, Ahmad, Cunha. That's the strong point. So he's identified that this United team can be great if I get the ball to my forwards as quick as possible. And what's the best way to do that? Going long, going vertical, hitting a big 6'5" striker, getting the ball into my attackers as quickly as possible, making them have the most touches on the ball and not the centre halves and not the midfielders playing tiki-taka. And I think the almost composition of the teams has suited that. And I think you've seen that over the last 3 games. That even though it could be a bit of a chaotic way of playing football and you don't know how much control you might generally have playing like that, it's made United very dangerous in terms of our attackers. And I think that's another thing that you can give a credit in Amorim's bank. So he's done a couple things, 2 or 3 things where in the last 3 games, I was like, I'm starting to be more of a believer. I will always want to see more. Things can change a lot in the Premier League. But I'm here to give him some significant credit because Amorim's done really well and he deserves his plaudits for what he's done in the last 3 matches. And everyone that believed in him and said to be patient, the light's shining brightly on yous. And not so much on me, but I don't care if it means that we're winning games and we're good. And you know what's mad? There's still personnel issues in terms of our wing-back situation. I think the midfield could probably get an upgrade on Casemiro. Bruno doesn't always have to play shifts in there as well. This team could end up being very dangerous. And I don't think it is a team that many teams that are probably better than us, or any team would like to play. What would you do if you're in the tunnel and you're seeing Cunha and you're seeing Mbeumo, you're seeing Bruno? I told you, United have good players. The only issue is when they're subbed and the bench and the substitutes come on, I think there's a bit of a drop. And the only thing that I'll say that I have learned in the last 3 games, and it's been a kind of a tendency for the most part of the season, is our second halves are nowhere near as strong as our first. And I think our second halves throughout the season have always included a 20, 25 minute, maybe even the whole half, a bit of a tail off. Because United are playing with intensity, aggression, speed to start matches. Aided by the fact that we don't have midweek matches as well. Aided by the fact that Amorim's made this team a lot fitter. And when you have that intensity and that work rate as well, it makes your press even that more difficult to play against. It makes you have a lot more energy in attack. Going forward with a lot more conviction in your actions. You see a lot of that with United in the first 25 minutes, first 45 minutes generally. And in the second half, when the players start to tire a little bit, the game settles down a little bit, players are starting to get subbed off and subbed on, and you bring on the likes of Ugarte, etc. And United then have a mad tail-off period for at least 10-15 minutes where the other team gets in the ascendancy. And that's my only concern about us being caught out in future matches. The only thing that aids us really well, though, in that situation is when the game does get stretched and teams are attacking us and then they're kind of pinning us in, we have such great transitional players in Bruno, Cunha, Sesko and Mbeumo and Ahmad and that type of talent where we can still sucker punch teams in that way. So I think that is one way that we almost counteract that. More needs to be done. More needs to happen. But I'm seeing some positive signs. That's why. Hey, people like me in it. That was Amorim believer all along. We're sitting in a good spot. And you know what's changed? We said that with no midweek games, especially when we were playing poorly, drawing, dropping points, that he felt really long. Civil war in the fan base, discourse, toxicity. And we almost it felt like it was too long until the next match. It almost still feels like that, but for the opposite way. United now, it gets to Monday and you're like, shit, when United don't play till Saturday, man. Needs to hurry up. We're actually enjoying watching the team play now. There's people better than me that can probably give you more of a breakdown of what they think should happen and what should change, because there is still improvements. I think Lammens as a keeper has made a massive difference. You cannot overstate the importance of having a solid goalkeeper. Goalkeepers can be responsible for 10 or 15 points in a season. Especially because of the jeopardy involved in that position when you make a mistake from when you don't, and the saves that you can make as well. But it looks like so far, talked about Amorim, I think United have almost smashed the transfer window apart from a midfielder. Lammens looks like a massive tick. Love his vibe about him as well. Like his calmness, his no business type of attitude where he's no gimmicks with him. He just looks focused, chilled guy. Cunha, smashed it. Baller. Players like that need to play at United. Get people off their seats. And Mbeumo, mini Salah, efficiency monster. Goals and assists. You might as well get that tattooed. That's his makeup. That's how he plays. And Sesko hasn't been prolific yet, but I've been so positive about his over. If you don't see the potential in Sesko, don't know what you're looking at. I've been impressed by him. And I think once it booms for Sesko, it's going to boom in such a scary big way. So definitely shout out to them. And shout out to United. Making us all believe a little bit again. And we've got 2 big games now. Forest, Sean Dyche, Tottenham, Thomas Frank before the international break. If you get a win or a draw, 4 points out of them 2. If you even get 6, 4 wins out of 5, 5 wins out of 5. United could be sitting pretty going into the December run of games, which is a very, very testing period of time. And then top 5, top 6, top 4 starts looking like something that United have a strong opportunity of getting, because we also have no European football, no EFL Cup to kind of distract us, which our rivals will be competing against. We'll have to deal with. United could end up doing something special. But we aren't there yet. We still need to go this way. There's still improvements. We're not perfect. There's still a long way to go. There's still more improvements that Amorim can make as well, and the team can make in general. But what I can say, the last three games has got us going in the right direction. But let me know what you think. Give me slander. Or mate, you might agree with me as well. But what we could all agree on is life's better for us when United are winning. But remember to like, comment, subscribe if you're new. I will see you next time. Bow.